Today, so I'm doing a book review on a book I just finished. It's so good. It's this one, Halfway to the Grave. And it has that because it's a library book, but Halfway to the Grave by Jeaniene Frost. So, my sister-in-law recommended this book to me, this series, and it's a 16-book series. So if you're looking for a really good series, this is one. And I like it. It's a paranormal, it's under paranormal romance. So it's really, really good. And if you like vampires, you're gonna like it. And if you read Twilight and you liked it when you were a teenager, but then you're getting older and you're like, I need something more grown up, this is for you. So, and I even have some pages marked of some things that I would like to read from the book itself. But yeah, so we'll get started. So this is about a girl named Catherine Crawfield, and she goes by Cat, and she's half vampire, half human. So her mother was date raped by a guy who had just been turned into a vampire. And I say that because after they've been a vampire for like a week or so, then their sperm dies. So he was just turned. And that becomes useful later on. But anyway, so she got pregnant, and no one believed her that she was raped. And she told, like, they drank blood from her and all this stuff. And so she knew he was a vampire because he told her and all that. But no one believed her. And so they just thought she just slept around. And when she got pregnant, she'd been sleeping around. Her parents thought that. Everyone thought that. But that wasn't the case. She was raped, and then she had daughter like 5 months later, and because it was half vampire baby, it didn't take as long to grow, so it only took about 5 months instead of 9. So because of that, she's got like a lot more capabilities than others. Like, she realized she's stronger, she's faster, her skin has got like this glow. She's very pale, but it's got like this glow that actually make other vampires very drawn to her. She's got red hair. She's super smart, like she can see in the dark. She's stronger. Just a lot of different things. Even like her eyes glow, but she eats human food, she still sleeps. She's still weaker than a vampire and slower, but anyway, and her mom is very religious, her grandparents are very religious, and she lives in a very little podunk town. And her one and only relationship basically dated her a few times, took her on a few dates, and then basically forced himself on her. And she says she doesn't consider it rape because she allowed it. Like, she was stronger, she could have stopped it, but she wanted to please him. So she let him, but he basically then stopped calling her, and then she's caught him with other girls. And so it really hurt her. But yeah, so I would consider that kind of like abuse in a way and rape in a way, but she doesn't consider it that, so I don't know. But anyway, she then just sworn off men, and she decided to go and start killing vampires because she didn't learn what she was until like 16 from her mother. And she started going out and killing the vampires after he like broke her heart and everything, actually that night. And like after she caught him with another girl, and that made her mom really happy. Her mom she told her mom, and her mom was really happy, and actually started getting close after she found out she was going out at night killing vampires, risking her own life doing this, because she thinks all vampires are evil because of what happened to her. And I mean, it's very telling of her mother. Her mother's very damaged, obviously, because I don't know any mother in the right mind that would let their child go out and do something dangerous like that. Even if you're like half that and more capable than the normal human, I still wouldn't let them go and do that. Like, she could die. Like, it's a dangerous thing, But her mom just was very happy and encouraged it. And then she went in the way she did. She would go to bars. She'd be dressed all kind of skanky, and then they'd hit on her. And then she'd go take them like have them drive and act drunk, and then they'd pretend, like, then they would start to, you know, go to feed off of her as well as sleep with her, and then she would stake them, and they wouldn't expect it. And the way that the vampires die in this book is with silver, and she's got it inside wood, so they wouldn't see it, basically, that there was silver in there. And she ends up killing like 16 vampires without dying somehow. And it's because she's killing newer vampires that aren't as strong, like master vampires. Anyway, this one night she goes to do the same thing, and then she feels, and that's the other thing, she can feel when the vampire's near. It's like electricity in the air, and she can feel it. And she really felt like a lot of power, more than she's ever felt. And she looks, see, this guy's got long blonde hair, like violet eyes. Definitely powerful. And even when she like touched him to try to entice him to go sleep with her, she could feel the power coming from him. And he was like, no, I've got something else to do, but I'll find you later, kind of a thing. And it turns out he was trailing this other vampire, because he kills vampires. He's an assassin, gets paid to kill other vampires, by other vampires that they've made mad. And the one vampire that he was following actually hit on her, and she did the same old thing and staked him, and he saw the whole thing. And so he thought she worked for this other bad vampire that he's following, not for money, just because he's bad, and he's like, he wants to kill him. And this guy that he was tracking was his accountant, I guess, and knew a lot about him. And he thought then she worked for this other guy. And so the next night he came up to her and said, hey, you ready to sleep together? And she was like taken aback, and she was like, yeah, because she's gonna go kill him. But he like threw off her game and everything, and basically got the upper hand, knocked her out, because he's a master vampire, different than what she ever encountered before. And she woke up like chained up, and he was like, you know, interrogating her. And when her eyes glowed, like, she told him the truth of what she was, and he didn't believe her until her eyes glowed like the green. And then he was like, oh my gosh, you must be telling the truth. So then he's like, you know what? I'm going to train you, and you can help me, and we'll team up together, and you can help me get after the guys I want to get after, because the vampires are very much drawn to you, and you'll reel them in for me, and then I'll kill them. So she's like, okay. And so it was against what she wanted to, because she thought all vampires were bad, but she was like, okay. So he started training her very, very much so, to get her stronger, to teach her how to get faster, how to fight with her legs, her arms, like everything, whether she had weapons or not. He trained her really, really well for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then he also started training her and being seductive and dirty talk. He was giving her lots of dirty talk. She would always blush whenever he did. And he's like, that's a dead giveaway. And so he got her used to just saying the crudest things to her, so she wouldn't blush. And it took a while, but finally it took effect. And then he took her to get all dolled up, like at a salon, and get her all dolled up, and then took her out. And of course she attracted the vampire they were looking for, and she did her same old routine. But then he was there, and he questioned him, and they got some information out of him. And then he's like, oh, I promise I won't kill if you tell me what I want to know. And so he did. But then he handed her the stake. He said, I promise I wouldn't kill you. And then she killed him. And then they just kept tracking down, and keeps telling about how they keep tracking down this other really bad vampire and what they're doing. He ended up taking her on a date, because she's like, oh, I never just gotten to go out to a club just for fun. I just go to do it for find vampires. So he took her one for a date, and she ended up getting drugged by 2 human guys. But because of that, she was like all over him. But they had a lot of electricity anyway. They really liked each other. And he called her Kitten, because she's like, my name's Cat, but he kept calling her Kitten. At first she didn't like it, but he just kept doing it. It became a pet name, and which is so cute. And then anyway, and they were kissing. He's like, I'm going to take you home if you don't, stop. But then the bad guy he was looking for showed up, and then they were trying to trap him, and they almost got him, but because she had been drugged by those guys, the human guys, and they came and drugged her again. When the bad guy she was talking to got up to talk to this other guy, and his name was Crispin, the guy that she was with fighting the vampires, but he went by Bones. But his human name was Crispin, but his vampire name was Bones. Anyway, and he said he did that because when he woke up as a vampire, he woke up among all these dead bones and everything, and so that's why he goes by that. And then he almost got her, this bad guy. Like, she was going off with him in the car, and Bones was following somewhat at a distance, but then she got out and started throwing up because she was drugged. But then because of that, she was loopy, and so this other guy almost actually killed her, but she hit a button on her watch, so then Bones knew she was in trouble and came and he saved her. But then the bad guy got away, but he saved her life. And he also had her go talk to like a ghost to get information on all these girls that had died and everything, to help lead them to the bad guy. But anyway, they ended up falling in love, looking for the bad guy, and dating, and she was very happy, but she kept hiding the truth about him from her mother. And then after the final straw of her hiding him, when her mother showed up unexpectedly, he was like, you need to figure out what you want in life, but you shouldn't have to hide parts of yourself or atone for what you are and who you are, because it's not your fault what you are. And you shouldn't have to keep atoning it to your mother by killing vampires and not being able to tell her who you're dating, who you're with. And she was mad at him at first, but then she finally figured that out on her own too, that you know what, he was right. I shouldn't have to atone for it anymore. Like, I'm her daughter, she should just love me anyway, and I'm gonna tell her the truth. And then when she called him, like, a lead that they had been following was missing, and they ended up finding her dead, and he was distraught. But then she ended up telling him that night that she loved him, and it made him like so happy to hear that, because he had already said it to her. And then they ended up getting really close to finding this guy. But then her mom was taken, and they went to find at the house, and her grandparents were murdered. Her mom was taken. So then they went to where she was being held and acted like they were handing Bones over to trade. But then they had a plan. She rammed the car in, and then she fought like you wouldn't believe. He's like, unleash everything that you've got within you. And they both fought and took on like 23 vampires. And she also called the cops, and they were on their way, and that upset a lot of them too. And so then they showed up, and they ended up saving her mother, and she found out who was behind, the real bad guy behind this other bad guy, and it was the governor. He made a deal with him to, like, if you clean up the state for me and get rid of like all the low lives, have them just I'll like get the records, the paperwork to disappear. And so they were like, okay. And so then that's what they were doing. So she ended up killing the governor. And then when she was in the hospital, even though she was healing really fast because she had Bones's blood in her before they went to fight, she had to make a deal with basically with the FBI special paranormal section, that she would work for them under her conditions if they would stop looking for Bones and keep her and her mother safe. And she just knew it was to protect him, because otherwise they were going to go kill him and find him and everything. And she didn't tell him, like, he attempted to rescue her, and he kind of did, but then her and her mom ended up leaving when he left to go take care of something, and she left a note, but then she had the FBI guys and everything, like, get rid of all the evidence and people that he could use to try to find her and track her down. And that's where it ended, and I was really disappointed, but like I said, it's a 16-book series, so But that's where the first one ended. So some quotes I'm going to read from this part. When she was drunk after talking to the ghost or whatever, she goes up to him and she goes, "Do you think I'm pretty?" I heard myself ask something I couldn't name flash across his face. "No, I don't think you're pretty. I think you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen." "Liar," I breathed. "He wouldn't have done that if I was. He wouldn't have been with her." Who? And that's basically her talking about past guy she was with. But I love that part that he's like, "You're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen." This is like in the beginning of when they first knew each other. Like he really was attracted to her. And then this part, he says, "I can't just let us go our separate ways, Ken, because I'm in love with you. I love you." My mouth fell open and my mind briefly cleared of thought. Then I found my voice. No, you don't. But I love that one. And then you hear my dog. He's in the background whining. Probably because he's thirsty before bed. Okay. So anyway, this is the part where she's like telling him basically like, "I love you" kind of thing. But she said, "I didn't know how I'd managed to hold it back this long. You have it already, so now you can stop." His whole body still. "Do you mean that?" Uncertainty, but also growing emotion, filled his eyes as they bore into mine. I nodded, mouth too dry to speak. "Say it. I need to hear the words. Tell me." I licked my lips and cleared my throat. It took 3 times, but finally my voice returned. "I love you, Buttons." And that's the other thing I like about this book is he teaches her that not all vampires are bad, just like all not humans are bad. But there are the bad ones too. So I like that she starts out prejudiced and then realizes they're not all bad. And Bones isn't bad. He's a great guy and she's so in love with him. And he loves her too. So one thing he said to her earlier in the book, and this is not the last thing it said at the end of this book, was, "And yet when I finally drifted off in that barely conscious state where logic was absent and dreams encroached, I could almost hear Bones' voice. He was whispering that same promise he'd made to me months ago when our relationship started. And I wondered if it was a sign and if he'd really meant it. And he said, 'If you run from me, I'll chase you and I'll find you.'" And he meant that like in a romantic way, not in a bad way. And so she's just like wondering that even if she's disappeared and all the leads have disappeared, if he's really gonna do that. And she's kind of hoping because she loves him, and it was really hard for her to leave him. Like she was so in love with him, but she did it to save his life in her mind. So anyway, I definitely recommend this book. I'd recommend this series. It's really good. I'm gonna read all 16 books and keep reviewing them for you guys. So yeah, I hope you guys read this book. Hit like, subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you guys later. Bye guys.